This is Tyrese Haliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
And the Indiana Pacers kick off the 2025 year with a 128-115 victory over the Miami Heat. Now they lead 2-1 in that season series. It was a big win for that specific reason and just because they need to get things rolling, Facci. So tonight was one of those games. But before we even jump into the game tonight, shout out to the sideline host of FanDuel Sports Network,
Correct.
Jeremiah Johnson, celebrating. I won't say the number, but he is celebrating a birthday this year or today. So happy birthday, JJ.
JJ, happy birthday. We appreciate you. Messaged JJ earlier and just said, yeah, thanks for always being a supporter of Setting the Pace from day one. He was one of those guys where I feel like he came on our show early and often. Always have that appreciation for JJ, and it's always great seeing him. Whenever I'm at Pacer games, that's one of the guys I'm always looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing. So happy birthday, JJ.
Yeah, I mean, and what better way for JJ to celebrate his birthday than to see the Pacers dominate the Miami Heat 128-115 behind the play of Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton looking like his vintage self, Facci. 33 points on 13 of 21 shooting, 15 assists, 5 rebounds. Oh, he also had 2 steals and a block. He was a plus 26 for the game. He was incredible. This is the version of Tyrese Haliburton that fans are desperate to see on a consistent basis. You talked about it on one of the last episodes that far too often he's had more bad games than he's had games like this. Is 2025 the year that Tyrese Haliburton kind of flips the script and gets back to himself?
I hope this is the year of Halliburton. 2025 is here. Leave everything else in the past. You saw it happen early on. It was like the first shot out of his hand. I went, oh, that looked good. Then he hit another three. And then I heard Chris and Quinn talking about how he was just absolutely stroking it in pregame, just, hitting like every single shot. And I was like, give this man the ball again. I just feel like we might be in for a treat. He hit his next shot. All of a sudden, he had 9 points in the first. Then it went all the way up to 16 points in the first. He really set the tone for the Pacers. And you got to remember, Indiana trailed 2-0, whatever. They went on a run. They were up like 12-2 at that
Yep.
point, and it just felt like the hot start by Tyrese Haliburton really kind of changed this game early on. The Pacers never had to look back. I loved how it started with Haliburton, and you can make an argument this may have been his best performance of the season. It's at least a season high 15 assists.
Yeah, I mean that to me is what it's all about, right? Because we've talked about Tyrese needs to be more of a scorer. And people are like, okay, but he's more of a passer. That's his game. Look what scoring did for him tonight. Scoring for him opened up so many more
A
passing
lot.
opportunities because if he's driving, if he's pulling up from mid-range, or he's shooting the three quick, it is making the defense rotate at a high level. Now, look, he's got to make his shots, and we've seen plenty of games where he's not making his shots, but I feel like there's been a lot of games where we haven't seen that same energy from Tyrese Haliburton. And there's a
For
lot of
real.
factors that are going into maybe why Tyrese played this way. Because look, I know they lost that game to the Bucks, and you want to get back from that game against the Bucks, blowing a 19-point lead in the second half. Now, Tyrese has always played well against the Miami Heat in Miami for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. I know people love storylines. We just did a storyline podcast, but how much of this motivated Tyrese Haliburton, do you believe, was because of the lack of all-star votes that he got? The first returns came out today, did not even crack the top 10 after leading the Eastern Conference voters last year with over 1 million votes in that first return. Now, he's not even on the top 10 list. I think that to me could have been motivation.
That is a really good point, and something I didn't factor in is like, yeah, you talked about 1 million votes last year. All we could see of the top 10, number 10 was 120,000 votes. So he might be at like 10% of where he was last year at this time. So maybe that was the extra motivation that he needed to be like, wow, like I'm going to let everyone know. I'm going to let everyone know. And you said he's had big games against Miami. He's dropped like 45. I believe his career high is against Miami, or if not, 1 point shy of a career high. So he's had success there. Great. It would be cool if we could play in Miami all the time. But one thing that I want to give him credit for, Chris Denari shared a great stat. Over his last 9 road games, Tyrese is now averaging 22 and 9
Mm,
assists on the road after some significant road struggles to start the year. We talked about the home and road splits early on. It
mhm.
was night and day. It's great to see that now he's not, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or anything of that sort. He's played really good on the road lately, and I think that's what you want from your star player.
No, absolutely. And I think tonight, one thing that I forgot to bring up too with the stats, he's a plus 26 and had 0 turnovers.
Incredible.
Okay, so like this is just like,
Zero turnovers. I know I'm cutting you off here, and I'm sorry for that, but like nobody does that as much as Tyrese has done that. Like he's at a historical rate of doing that. I don't know if it's 4 or 5 different times he's
mhm.
done that. That's a once in a career game for some people. The fact that he's now done this numerous times, that's elite status. I would love to see now if he's either done it the most all time or he's probably within one or two. I know it's him and John Stockton. I think maybe Steve Nash might have been in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Chris Paul's had many of those games either. I mean, that'd be interesting
Probably a
to look up
couple.
too. But I want to go back to this point because I really do believe like 33 points is great, but he generated 35 points off of his 15 assists. So that's 68 of your 128 points, which means that the other 60 points were scored or generated by other players. So basically, he took over like half the scoring load just from passing and scoring. And a lot of those shots that a lot of those assists that he had were just like beautiful passes, like to wide open guys. Like, I don't know if you remember in the first quarter, like when he was cooking, he drove and it's like he got this pass out to Obi Toppin in the right corner for a three. And I literally did not even think he made the pass. I thought someone like hit it off of his leg and it ricocheted out there quickly. I mean, that's how good and quick that pass was. It's just like when Tyrese is at his best, he is a great, great player. And I think this is why fans have been so frustrated this season, Foch, is because we have seen that we know that this is in him. He's got the ability to do this. And unfortunately, he doesn't do it on a consistent basis. So, you know what? I'm going to give him all the flowers tonight.
All of them.
But what he does, when's their next game? Is it Saturday
It is.
against Phoenix?
Yep.
He needs to prove that against Phoenix. Come out there and play with the same level of intensity. Be more intentional about the shots you're looking for because you could tell, like he got ran a 3-point line, he drove into the basket, and they kind of, cut him off there. So he circled back around and hit a mid-range jumper. It's like, boom, that's what I want to see. You are a superstar potential player. Play like it. We need that from you.
Man, I loved seeing Tyrese with that free throw line jumper tonight or getting into the paint, anything like that. It's like when that confidence builds, he's dangerous. And we talked about anything could happen. And on a night like tonight, the shooters were hitting. You know,
Mhm.
we mentioned the other night, hey, look, Tyrese is going to get open looks for 3-point shooters, but Indiana's 3-point shooters, a little bit inconsistent. Overall, as a team, I mean, Indiana shot 42.5% from three tonight. They went 17 of 40. You love to see it. Guys like Jarris Walker were knocking down threes and Obi Toppin knocking down threes. Obviously, Tyrese himself had 6 made threes. Turner had a great game. But, before we skip all around, what's interesting is I mentioned about how Tyrese has gotten it going on the road lately. It's actually at home lately where he struggled. It was the
Mhm.
3 of 13 for 12 points against Milwaukee. It was 2 of 6 shooting for 4 points against OKC recently. So it's actually been the other way around, at least for the last 2 games, and a lot of his success has come on the road. I'm very interested, just like you, to see what does he do at home against the Phoenix team as Indiana looks to get back to 500. I think this team now, they're having really good wins, but they're not stringing as many of them together in the last 4 or 5 games as you want to see. This is a good opportunity for Phoenix, but man, there's still a lot to digest with this game.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to go through Tyrese's shot chart here real quick because I think it's important. He was 3 of 4 inside the paint. He was 4 of 4 from the mid range and 6 of 13 from three. So you're not going to find a more efficient night than that. Almost every single one of his misses outside of 1, 2 that I think he overshot it or something like that, or on the right side of the rim, were all from three on the right side. So he hit almost every three that he took in the center of the court. He was pretty bad on the right side. I think he was one of 6 on the right side. So he did have a baseline corner three on the left hand side. So it's just one of those things where it's just like it's great to see, and it's kind of interesting to see where he got the shots from. But it was from all 3 levels, and I think that's what opened up the game so much more. But if we're going to continue moving forward here with this team, I think that the next player we probably should talk about, Miles Turner. I think Miles Turner had a very solid game in this one. I still am so intrigued by him as a player because I feel like for whatever reason, maybe since Sabonis got traded, this matchup against Bam, I feel like he's gotten the better of Bam
I agree with that.
in these games, and it's kind of weird, like because we see how much he struggles against like a guy like Embiid or even Jokic at times, but like with Bam. Like Bam is like one of these all-star caliber
Great,
centers that
great
Turner
defensive center.
just seems to have his number. And they match their minutes usually. Like Khalil Weir, like the Heat did not look good tonight. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, when they were not on the floor, they looked better without them. So
Yes.
I don't really know like what it is, but Turner looks so good and comfortable in this matchup. And I like the Pacers make it in a, like they're intentional about making sure they match up those minutes.
hmm I think it was almost like taking turns. Tyrese had 16 points in the first quarter. Turner had zero. Second quarter, Tyrese had 0 points in the second quarter, and it was Miles Turner that had like nine. Turner had 20 of his 21 in the second and the third. I just felt like he could not miss. He was absolutely stroking it. It was great to see. He was 2 of 5 from three, whatever, but 8 of 15 from the field. 21 points. You love to see the 2 blocks. I just felt like he was really in rhythm. Loved that like free throw line jumper as well. Whenever Turner had a good look tonight, I felt like he looked confident and cashed it. And yeah, I mean, Bam Adebayo is looked at as one of the better defensive centers in this league, and it did not look like the case tonight. Turner was awesome. And when you mentioned about Jimmy Butler, they got problems right now. They got problems. That is not Jimmy Butler. He looked disengaged in this game. He had 2 points on 2 shots at halftime.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler had 2 shots and 2 points. That can't happen. And I think for the game, a lot of times I'd see him out in the corner, out by the 3 point line, just not really looking thrilled. I don't know if it was because they were, down 24 points or so, but that looks like a guy who is not happy right now. And I don't know, the body language was not good.
Yeah, I mean Jimmy Butler was non-existent. Like I think he had 2 points in the first half, and you're kind of like wondering, like, okay, like, is he gonna do anything? I felt like in the third quarter he did pick it up just like a little
Like
bit,
7, I think.
and then when he like tried a little bit, it's like, okay, Jimmy Butler can probably be a little bit more
I'm
impactful
sure.
in this game. It just seemed like he wasn't really interested, and I know they were on the second night of the back-to-back after they had just beat the Pelicans in Miami, but still, you could just kind of feel it. Like Jimmy Butler just, like you mentioned, disengaged, didn't seem like he really wanted to be there. And so, I just kind of thought to myself, like, okay, ever since they put out that statement, I don't know if I told you this, but I think I
Mhm.
did. That to me was like the biggest, like, yeah, they're trading him. That's a leverage play from Pat Riley to like not completely destroy Jimmy Butler's value
Trade value.
because
Yeah.
we know exactly how that game works. We've been
Oh,
around
yeah.
the block, the block this many times to see how it works. Now, where he goes will be interesting. I think it's going to be Golden State or Phoenix. I think that's like the two teams that make the most sense to me. I don't really know what they would. I think Jonathan Kuminga for Jimmy Butler, like a trade package like that, could make a lot of sense because I think that Kuminga in the Miami Heat system could be really interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm not here to talk trades, but I just think it's interesting to talk about that. But regardless, I think Turner, like, yeah, had a very good game, was a plus 14 in this game. And you look at Bam's stats, like Bam had some pretty good numbers, but even if you go back to the game where the Pacers absolutely played like their worst game of the season or one of their worst games when Miami went on this huge run, Bam Adebayo was really quiet until the end of the third quarter when the Pacers had put Enrique Freeman on him. And so then Bam kind of exploded in that fourth quarter because he got super hot and comfortable going up against Enrique Freeman. So when they put Turner back into the game, the damage has already been done. So I feel like that matchup is just really interesting to kind of keep an eye on. But good game from him, and I think the Pacers, Pascal Siakam. I mean tonight did not seem like a loud 18 points. It was a very, like we talk about, methodical 18 points on 8 of 13 shooting. He got going early on. Then he did kind of have some nice buckets there at the end when the Pacers went back to their starters. But 11 rebounds for him and 4 assists. I thought this was a really well-rounded game from Pascal.
It really was. I just feel like Siakam, yeah, like you said, never looked dominant in this. I feel like it was Haliburton and Turner that at times looked dominant, but Pascal Siakam was there throughout. At 10 points by halftime, finished with 8 in the second half, just played consistent. But one thing that I really noticed, and I want to give him, Nembhard, and honestly this team credit, is they fought on the offensive glass. They really did. Siakam had 4 offensive rebounds. Nembhard had 3. As a team, Indiana had 13. I felt like there's times where we're like, man, this team can't get a rebound for their life. And there was other times where there was like all these second chance efforts where I think Siakam had quite a few that he was able to save by like the baseline and just like the Pacers fought for those second chance opportunities tonight. This looked like a team that was motivated, that had energy, that had hustle, and Miami looked like the exact opposite. And I felt like the ball was falling for Indiana. It was just simply the Pacers' night. And it was a great type of performance that you want to see to kick off the year. I felt like all of the starters were really good in this game. Like if you look at like Nembhard, who honestly he had been playing really good basketball since his return. The 6 points isn't going to blow anybody away, but the 6 boards is great. The 6 assists
The
is
mark of the beast is what I called it before we got on here.
it's true. The 6 6 6. But he also played really good defense in this game. I mean, he had Tyler Hero in a straitjacket in the third quarter. I mean, just really, I think Hero had 2 points. I think they were both free throws towards the end of the quarter. And I just felt like anyone Nembhard took on the challenge with, he played really well. And that's the type of stuff that just doesn't show up in the box score.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, Andrew Nembhard, you got to like, twist my arm to tell me how good he is, but like based on NBA.com shot chart, Tyler Hero went 0 for 1 in the third quarter. He took 1 3-point shot. That was it.
Yeah, you couldn't do anything.
Yeah. So he was in Nembhard jail. And I know that when Nembhard came out, they did put Ben Shepherd on Tyler Hero for a good stretch there. And I know Hero ended up having about 50% field goal percentage, but like I thought Ben Shepherd played good defense too. Like I think Ben Shepherd has done a very good job of just kind of like working his butt off defensively to stay in front of guys. Now, there's times when he does get beat every once in a while, but for the most part, I love his aggression. I think offensively, like that's where I would love to see him take that next step forward as a more consistent 3-point shooter because for Ben Shepherd, we want to see that more often. But I'll tell you this, I don't know if Jarris Walker's ever going to miss another three. I mean, I feel like every time that dude's letting the fly from out there, it is hitting the bottom of the net. I mean, how can you not be impressed? Now, I will say this, like when the Pacers had to go back to their starting group, Jarris was a part of that five, and I think they just kind of got a little discombobulated there a little bit, and that has been the case with Jarris. It's like he has some good offensive moments, but the totality of his game, there are still some holes that have to be filled. But that doesn't take away from what he's been doing offensively. And I think Mathurin, once again, this is such a hard conversation to have because Mathurin has not been the scorer that we're accustomed to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Mathurin has really done a great job of figuring out that Aaron Nesmith type role.
I agree with that.
And fitting into it without being problematic. He hasn't had an attitude about not scoring the basketball and things like that. He's just going out there and working hard. So I do want to give him some props for that just because I think he is a very talented player that probably has a higher ceiling than how he is being played right now with his role, but he's accepting his role and doing what they're asking him to do.
Think about this. The knock on Mathurin, I feel like all throughout the offseason, the Pacers had success in the playoffs was how is Mathurin going to fit in? Fit in. I think that he has fit in great lately. I think, if anything, he's sacrificed from a shot perspective. I don't think there's been many games that we've been like, yikes, Mathurin was just, really jacking him up or anything like that. Like, I feel like the games that he's put up a good amount of shots are the games that he's been accurate from the field in. There has not been many performances where I feel like where he's really struggled at times. I feel like you're seeing a lot of like, against Boston when the Pacers won, he was 6 of 8 from the field. I mean, against Milwaukee, he was 10 of 18. Hey, that's good shooting right there. But there's plenty of games where he's having 9 shots. Or against New Orleans 2 weeks ago, 3 of 6 from the field in a win. So he's played winning basketball, I feel like, and a lot of these times he's sacrificed shots for more rebounds, playing better defense, anything that he could do to contribute to winning. And I think your statement right there of trying to play the Aaron Nesmith role, I think sums it up very well because he's not as good of a defender as Aaron Nesmith, but he hasn't been a shortcoming of the Pacers where they're saying, oh man, Mathurin's getting targeted and just abused out there. I felt like he's definitely stepped up to the challenge. And, some nights it's his night to get some more shots up. Some nights it really hasn't been. But I think that he's done exactly what everyone hoped, and that's could he fit in and still contribute to winning basketball? The answer, I would say, despite this team being one game below 500, I would say is more yes than no by far.
Yeah, and I will say this, like, if we're going to have one nitpick with Mathurin, I would say it's got to be the turnovers. He had 3 in this game tonight and 6 the game against Milwaukee.
No other starter had a turnover tonight other than Mathurin.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like, it's that constant thing we bring up of just like him trying to be the extra passer that he's not sometimes. And, one thing that I've noticed is like his handle's not as tight with the pass, where like Nembhard and Siakam even and Haliburton kind of maybe thread the needle a little bit more on a pass, where that's just not Mathurin's game. I don't really think it's Turner's game either. Like Turner's not a great passer.
Never
Uh,
has.
no, he's been okay as like an entry passer to the post for Pascal from the top of the key because he knows where to give him the ball at. But other than that, like, he's got his flaws. But in this game, I just feel like Mathurin was very impactful. And I feel like he did a very good job in what they asked him to do. So kudos to him for doing that. But moving forward, like let's just look at the bench real quick. We did talk about Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd a little bit, but I want to talk about Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin, got back in the double digits after he had a little, drop off there with the ankle injury and things like that. So he's back. 12 points for him, 6 rebounds. He looked good with Tyrese out there. I thought TJ McConnell looked a lot more spry tonight. There's been a few games I feel like recently he's looked a little bit sluggish, or the defenses of the other teams we've been playing have been kind of more like scouting and taking away what he does best. So I just think overall, the bench played really well, and even Thomas Bryant in the 7 minutes he played had some nice moments.
Thomas Bryant hit a shot early on, hit a three, and I thought to myself, Thomas Bryant revenge game?
I knew
Is
that was
this
coming.
it? He didn't score again.
I saw you tweet it. I knew it was going to be brought up here on this podcast, so I was excited for it.
Yep, yeah, no, there wasn't another made basket from him, but I was looking forward to the next one. I wanted to feed him a little bit, but I'm happy that he got that win. Probably not a great feeling being traded for as little as he was traded for, but it feels good to pick up a win against your old team. I thought Obi Toppin was who we needed Obi Toppin to be. Hey, provide some double digit scoring. He rebounded, 6 boards, great, hit threes, awesome. Can't ask for much more. I feel like the bench played their roles well. You had Johnny Furphy got his couple seconds to a minute, but like Thomas Bryant with a little bit. Both guys we talked about probably going to find themselves out of the rotation when Aaron Nesmith comes back. But for the other core four of the bench that we saw, they play all at least 13 to 20 minutes. All played well. I mean, I know we mentioned before that Jarris Walker was a guy that was a negative plus minus in this game, but still played well offensively. He had some good looks from three, and all you could ask is, hey, you get a wide open three, cash it. And I feel like that's exactly what he did tonight. One thing I want to highlight, a season low 6 turnovers from the Pacers after having 18 turnovers against Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do. How do you tighten your handle? Just like you said, how do you protect the rock? Whatever saying you want to throw out there. Indiana did it tonight. The 6 turnovers, great. The 35 assists,
That's crazy.
fantastic. Nearly 7 assists per turnover. Incredible stuff. The 13 offensive rebounds. That's winning basketball right there. And I just felt like Indiana from start to finish really showed something. The 41 points in the third quarter coming out of halftime. I mean, what more could you ask for when you're asking a team to keep their foot on the gas when they have a good, sizable halftime lead?
Yeah, I think it was a great point brought up by JJ during the second quarter when the Pacers, about 7 minutes into the quarter, were still even with the Heat at a 13-point lead. And he reported that Tyrese Haliburton was talking to the bench and saying, hey, we got to end this quarter by winning the quarter and extending our lead past 13. We got to win these next 5 minutes, whatever it was. And it was a little bit sloppy when Tyrese got back into the game, but they still ended up getting a 3-point addition to that 13-point lead. So they go to the half, leading 66-50, which to me, like anytime you can hold a team to 50 points in one half, that's really impressive defense. And I thought the Pacers defense was really good tonight. And I think their offense was kind of jittering their defense. Like you could just tell, like it's all like this positive reaction, stuff like this positive energy. When you do one thing right, it just leads to the other thing going right and so forth. But that to me was important. And then, like you just mentioned, that fourth quarter where they outscored Miami by dropping 40 plus points in the quarter, like that to me was like Tyrese Haliburton, like the message he sent in the first half was being carried over coming out of the second half because they blew that 19-point lead in that third quarter against Milwaukee, and they didn't want to have a repeat version of that happen again. So you asked me early on in this podcast about the assist and 0 turnovers, okay?
What would you got?
I'm just happen to scroll through Twitter and StatMuse, our good friend, always coming through in the clutch. Now, this is only active players, Facci. So this is active players with 15 plus assists and 0 turnovers. Chris Paul has 10 of those. Tyrese Haliburton already has 9.
Insane. I mean, Chris Paul is viewed as arguably the best point guard of like our time. I mean, truly, of like a guy's career spans 20 years. I mean, I believe it's 20 years. It could be 19. It might be 19. Either way, 19, 20 years. That's a Hall of Famer right there. And you're talking about what Tyrese already did by age 24. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Tyrese could pass him this year. That's crazy. So that's elite status. And if you want to talk about guys that have done it all time, I mean, you're really only talking about maybe like a John Stockton in there. It's a short list of people that have 15 assists and 0 turnovers. So what we watched tonight, it was a masterpiece. There's no other way to put it. And that's the only reason why we get frustrated with Tyrese when he struggles, because these type of performances, they're historic.
Yeah. I mean, this is like you said, the year 19 for Chris Paul. So was drafted in 2005 by the Hornets, and it is 2024 or 2025, I should say at this point, but the 2024-2025 season. So that is impressive because Tyrese is in his fourth season, right? Fifth
No,
season?
no. I believe it's 5 at this
Is
point.
it his fifth one right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he just got off the rookie contract, so that makes
Mm.
sense. Tyrese Haliburton is in his fifth season as a pro, so he's played 4 years. So I guess I don't know because they're saying experience 4 years here for Haliburton on B-ball reference, and they're saying 19 for Chris Paul. So either way, 15 more years of experience in the NBA, and Tyrese is only one game behind Chris Paul for 15 assists game with 0 turnovers. I mean, that just kind of shows you why people have kind of deemed Tyrese Haliburton this era's point guard. And there's a reason why I compared him to Chris Paul in terms of being like a mid-range
Mhm.
assassin, because he can do that. So overall, I just thought it was a really good game. Obviously, the way you want to start the year off, right? Put 2024 in the past. You had some great memories from 2024, but like you mentioned, like you're hoping 2025 is the best year yet. You know, prove me wrong. Get those positive vibes back, because I've just been feeling like this team has not been fun. We talked about it today earlier on during we were texting a little bit. We were just saying like the voting stuff with Tyrese Haliburton is just mind-boggling to both of us a little bit, because you're getting guys like Jordan Poole getting more votes than
That's
them on the
crazy.
Wizards, right? And it's
That's
just a
nuts.
popularity thing. Like he was so popular during that in-season tournament run, and it's all about how you start in the beginning of the regular season to how fans, they get that perception of who you are as a player. And it could be 20 games in the beginning of the year. You could play great for the final 62, but they're only going to remember those first 20 games. So, Halliburton got off to a really slow start, and it just kind of seems like everybody's kind of like, stepping back. They're not drinking the Kool-Aid anymore, but Tyrese Haliburton reminded them all tonight why he is a special player. Now, I will say this, based on his overall play, I do not expect him to be a top 10 vote getter
Not
in
at
the
this
Eastern
point.
Conference. He has not played good enough. So anybody out there that thinks I was complaining about him not being there on social, that was not my point. I was just trying to paint a picture. Like last year, number one vote getter and all-star votes to not even cracking the top 10 kind of shows you how up and down this year has been for Tyrese and how bad it's been really from an overall standpoint in terms of like what your expectations are for Tyrese.
I mean, look, he could have felt a 7. We would have said, "Ooh, that's a fall off." Falling like outside the top 10 is like that's a major drop off. I mean, we don't even know where he ranked outside the top 10. We're hoping maybe it could have been 11. It doesn't even matter at that point. But it just shows that it's like, wow, the darling of the NBA now. He's got haters. He's got haters, and I think that with those, there's a lot of people you always got to prove wrong. Hopefully, he's just trying to prove himself right. But regardless, I had a lot of fun tonight. I think that the fun has been a little bit hard to come by this season. This was a really good win. This is a team that Miami ranks above you in the Eastern Conference
Big
standings. This
win.
is a team that this type of win could go a long way at the end of the year, because the Heat are probably going to be in the Pacers territory unless maybe they, sell off Jimmy Butler or anything like that. But this is the type of win that you really wanted to respond with. I had a good time, and I want the good times to keep rolling. So I'm hoping that Indiana responds against a Phoenix team that they've already taken down. This time, they get to do it at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most glaring stat to me in this game, 21 more shot attempts by the Pacers,
Wow.
and the rebounds were 39 to 39. So you're like, where do they get those shots from? A lot of it comes from turnovers, 16 to
That's
8.
interesting.
But still, that I'm just trying to figure out where they got the extra 21 shots from. So it's really just interesting because
Look, hey, offensive rebounds definitely contributes in there.
13 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting.
There's 16 possessions right there. I guess that makes sense for
Yeah,
21 shots. It's close.
it's a game where you look at this and you're like, wow, Miami shot 57%, but 21 less shots will do that to you in terms of this game really not being that close. I know Miami ends up making it a little bit closer, like a 13-point game. I think they had a decent fourth quarter, but this was a game that Indiana led by 24 points, as many as 24, and they were in control all game. I feel like if you went across every stat possible, Indiana just checked the boxes in this game. So they led by as many as 28, actually.
Yeah.
But if you check the boxes, I mean, they really just handled Miami across the board. And I think you could start to see, like, there's a chance Miami could be going in the opposite direction. Like, there's stuff behind the scenes, and I really do feel like Indiana's going in the right direction moving forward. I believe they've now won they're 8-4 in their last 12.
Yeah, they're playing better. Yeah, it's when I look at the Miami Heat, I think of a team that maybe just kind of held on a little bit too long to that core because they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times in a row. They made it to the finals against Denver when they upset Boston. I think they were down or they were up 3-0 and almost blew it. And then they won that game 7. So, they've had their, good moments here with Jimmy Butler, but I just think that ship has sailed and they're probably heading in a different direction. I will say this, it does seem like it could be addition by subtraction when and if they do make that Jimmy Butler trade. For example, we talked about Bradley Beal being kind of a fraud the other episode. If they were to somehow make a deal with the Suns and Bradley Beal goes to Miami, like I could see a version of Bradley Beal that looks more like his Wizards version on that team compared to what he's doing with the Suns right now, because you do have Katie and Booker kind of like being the 1-2 punch.
Okay.
Now Tyler Hero's having an all-star level season. Like he's been playing great. So how will that impact, how they play if they were to get someone like that? So I mean, it's just really interesting, but I do think that the Miami Heat could be a better team if they trade Jimmy Butler, just because Jimmy Butler does not seem to want to kind of like do his part to be the best version of himself for this team right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it'd be interesting though. In the trade scenario you brought up with like Bradley Beal, the problem is Bradley Beal is not a dog. Jimmy Butler's a dog, and I feel like that would be a big drop off for them. But if they do bring in like you mentioned, like a Jonathan Kuminga and something like that, I think Kuminga's ready to take off. And I think that there would obviously have to be someone else in there to help the salaries match. So it's like they could probably get other pieces back that could make them a better team, at least short term, than what they're looking at right now. Because I think right now they just have like, there's no Udonis Haslem. So I feel like your culture probably took a hit. Then if Jimmy Butler's moping around and no one's able to really check him, there's probably not great vibes in Miami right now compared to where they've been before. And I think sometimes people kind of lose a little bit of track of when you lose like those like locker room leader type guys. And I think that right now, this isn't the Miami Heat team that we're used to seeing. But I'm just hoping that this is becoming the Pacers team that we've waited to see all season. We're starting to see flashes a little bit more often. And I think that, hey, like we talked about before, with Indiana having to go, say, like 29-19 over the final, 48 or so games or whatever it ended up being, hey, starts with one win. They got their first win in 2025, making them undefeated this calendar year. Man, I don't get a chance to say that quite often. It feels good.
Yeah, it does feel good. And it would be nice to continue that on at least for like a 4-game winning streak. Beat the Suns, beat the Nets, beat the Bulls, even beat the Warriors. Like, why can't you win 5 in a row? Then go.
Seems they've already beat.
Yeah, and then go test yourself. Well, they haven't beat the Nets yet.
I know. Don't remind me.
But go test yourself against Cleveland after that. Get some momentum heading into that Cleveland little mini series you got and see what you can do. Because if you can go and only lose 2 games to Cleveland out of everything else before you go play the Spurs in France, then do it. I mean, that's going to be big. And I think that that's a little bit of a bummer because those are like 2 road games. Going back to Paris where Wemby's from, that's tough. And, it might be a home game for the Pacers, but it's not. The Pacers are definitely...
There's not going to be any Pacer fans there.
There might be a Pacer fan or 2 there.
Yeah, a Pacer fan or 2.
You said there wouldn't be any. I'm just being...
Yes. Trust me.
Factual.
I went to Pacers versus Knicks in the playoffs. I was one of 2, maybe one of 6 fans in the whole area. That was in New York. They're not traveling well to Paris. There'll be a couple fans there, some diehard season ticket holders who make the trip. But
see, this is where you should go to break the curse. Write it off as a business trip.
My wife wanted to. She really did. And then I thought to myself, this is going to cost me a fortune. Like, I'm going to
You
go.
are such a tightwad.
Dude, to go to Paris to take my wife to go to this, and that we would have to work. We don't go for like a day. You have to go for like a week, and then what? I'm gonna go there.
Okay.
They lose their 18th straight game with me in attendance. And I'm
Go
gonna
to both games. You have a 2-for-1 chance.
yeah, I guess so. I tell you what. How about you pack your stuff? You go to Paris.
I don't need to. I'm not breaking a curse.
You root on the boys, all right, and let's see if we can get that win.
My wife does not. I don't have a passport either, so
No,
my wife
you gotta get the
does
one.
not want to go to Paris right now. Your wife does.
She does, but
Why
it's not
can't
gonna
Babe ever get anything? You always make everything so difficult for Babe.
Hey, I can tell you this. We're going to Disney again. All right.
That's not even close to
averaging-
Paris.
I'm averaging a trip to Disney every 6 months, and it ain't my idea. I know she's not listening to this one, but I'll just put it that way. It has never been my idea. So
I mean, you let her go to Taylor Swift, but you didn't go with her.
I drove. Those tickets were expensive. All right. I got her ticket.
This is a tightwad right here.
I wasn't gonna appreciate it the way that I'd be in there. She turned to me and I'd be like, I don't know the words. Like, you
You're
know,
just there for her, bro. That's what you go for.
dude, I drove for her. That was me supporting. All right. I just like sat there and waited for the whole concert to be over. That was me saying I support.
So you sat in the car and waited the entirety of the concert?
No. I drove to Philly, so I drove like a couple hours for the concert. Her and her friend went. I like got dinner by myself. I like went to a casino by myself. I waited it out, and then I drove her, and then I sat in traffic for like 2 hours before we even left the parking lot. I put in the work. Then I drove back from Philly to home. That was like
See,
another.
you should have just
3
went.
hours.
The concert sounds way more fun than having dinner by yourself and losing a bunch of money at the casino by yourself.
Hey, who said I lost?
Did you win?
I won a little bit.
How much we talking? You gonna
like
spill the beans?
Might have been like $25. I didn't lose though. So if you didn't
You
lose,
covered dinner. It covered dinner.
if I didn't lose, and definitely didn't cover dinner. But if I didn't lose, I won. So that's the thing.
What did you treat yourself to?
It was like I think it might have been like a buffalo chicken sandwich. I love a good buffalo chicken sandwich. I think I had like a beer and like I don't know, maybe I got an appetizer. I don't even remember.
Bachi's going all out for himself for driving his wife to the
I
festival.
had hours to kill. It was like, what am I gonna do for 3+ hours?
Go to Top Golf. Work on your swing. Phew.
My swing is you've never seen a swing like this. I got no swing. All right.
I've seen your basketball jumper. I think it's probably as bad as that.
I am the worst golfer that's ever been born. I am the worst, and I will accept that. Like,
Okay. Well, hey guys.
One time, this is a true story. Paid for lessons. Went for lessons with this. After this this is not an exaggeration. I was so bad. The guy said, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you gotta ask yourself, is this for you? And when the guy said that, I went, what? Like, I couldn't believe that the golf instructor is basically telling me, like, maybe you just quit. Like, it's like, isn't it your job to make me better? So, I don't know. I haven't golfed in a couple years now. I don't know if I ever will again. But, hey, if we got some golfers out there, throw me some tips.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, Facci, I do not have my own golf clubs.
Neither do I. It's not worth me having them on that.
I am not a good golfer, but I haven't really put in the work either.
Either
so.
have I. I definitely have not. But, I mean, it's just, that's a hard sport. Like, it is just tough to even make contact. It's
I don't know if it's that hard.
no, for me it is.
Oh, this is bad. Well, this is really interesting. So, I think Sam Vecini just tweeted a video about Jimmy Butler. Here we go. Let's see if we can hear this.
And I don't shoot the ball a lot, but we won't sit here and say that I don't play hard.
What will fix it? What do you want to see happen to fix it?
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court. But I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. And I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
A trade's going to happen at some
Yes.
point. Like they are at a crossroads where it feels like either Jimmy's going to bring down this team because, he's going to be really on. We've seen that happen before. We've
Yes.
seen, the whole Minnesota situation. But I think in this scenario, it's like, hey, I would expect that it's the beginning of January right now that they're going to try and work something out soon. But this could end up stretching to the deadline. I mean, you can't really force a deal like this. There's only a couple of teams that would really be in the Jimmy Butler market to be able to move pieces the way that there's certain restrictions out there. So that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I actually clip the better audio version of that so everybody can hear it better than what I was just playing from my phone through the microphone. So we'll get a better version of that. But Facci, we've gone way too long. Obviously, MVP of the game, Tyrese Haliburton, clutch player of the game. Do you want to go Pascal Siakam?
Yeah, sure.
He had some big buckets there at the end. I know Tyrese did too, but sure, why not? What about hustle play? You want to go Miles Turner?
I mean, I guess you could go Turner. You can go Turner and Nembhard. I think Turner had the bigger performance. I
Did you
think
see how he dove on the floor for that loose ball in the first half?
yes,
I've never seen
yes.
Turner do that in a long time.
That's definitely worth it. I liked how Nembhard was flying through for the offensive rebounds, but Turner had a really good game where he deserves some credit. So I'm cool giving it to Turner.
All right, there's your awards, and we kind of went through those quickly. So if you disagree, let us know. We didn't put too much thought into it. But Facci, with that being said, work on your golf swing, get it figured out, have a good time. It's 2025. It's time to be alive, and the Pacers are alive. 1-0 in 2025, undefeated, never lost, as our friend LeVar Ball would say. But Facci, if you're hoping the Pacers can take down the Phoenix Suns on Saturday, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go Pacers.